What happens when trust, family, and money collide? In 2024, a shocking financial betrayal shook the Roloff family to its core. Chris Marek, husband of Amy Roloff, borrowed $400,000 from none other than Amy's ex-husband, Matt Roloff. Because of this, Matt Roloff gave Chris a final warning, meaning he warned him for the last time, saying that if the money isn't returned, he will take serious action. However, all of Chris Marek's money had already sunk into his glamping business, which turned out to be unsuccessful. As a result, a major tension has arisen at Roloff Farms. Now, Amy Roloff is caught between her ex-husband Matt Roloff and her current husband Chris, stuck in the conflict between the two men. Karen Chandler is allegedly pressuring Matt to take action against Chris. And this incident seems to prove Zach Roloff's earlier accusations about his father true, since Zach had already criticized Matt's business practices before. This is the untold story of betrayal, broken trust, and the battle for Roloff Farms. Stay tuned, because this isn't just drama. This is little people, big world like you've never seen it before. In the quiet Oregon countryside, Roloff Farms had long been a symbol of dreams, struggles, and family legacy. But in 2024, something happened that threatened to unravel it all. Chris Marek, eager to prove himself as a businessman, had invested heavily into his glamping resort idea. A luxury camping experience with high hopes, but very little return. When the bills piled up, Chris turned to a surprising source for help, Matt Roloff. Matt wasn't just Amy's ex-husband. He was also Chris's rival in more ways than one. But despite their history, Matt agreed to lend Chris the staggering sum of $400,000. Matt's reasoning? On the surface, generosity. Deep down, perhaps leverage. Matt always believed in keeping control, and this loan would bind Chris to him in ways money often does. But by late 2024, Chris's glamping dream had collapsed. The money? Gone. The repayment? Nowhere in sight. Matt finally issued what he called a final warning. Either Chris paid him back, or he would take serious action. The tension had begun. Amy Roloff had thought her divorce from Matt meant she was free to live her life without his shadow. But this loan had pulled her right back into the battlefield. Her new husband, Chris, stood accused of being irresponsible, maybe even dishonest. Her ex-husband, Matt, stood tall, demanding repayment, and using the crisis to exert control once again. Amy's world was torn in two. At family dinners, the tension was unbearable. Chris insisted he just needed more time. Matt reminded him coldly that business doesn't wait. Amy wept in private. She had married Chris for peace and companionship. Now, she was watching her second marriage crack under the same weight of money and mistrust that had crushed her first. Behind the scenes, Karen Chandler was fueling the fire. She told Matt, "Chris knew what he was doing. He used you, and he used Amy. Don't let him walk all over us." Amy, meanwhile, accused Karen of manipulating Matt to turn him against Chris. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about power, loyalty, and love. For years, Zach Roloff had criticized his father's way of running the farm. He warned that Matt's obsession with business and control would one day tear the family apart. And now, it looked like Zach's warnings had come true. The $400,000 dispute gave Zach more fuel. He told his siblings privately, "Dad's not helping Chris. He's setting him up. He always plays these power games. And look, now Mom is stuck in the middle again." The other Roloff children didn't want to get involved. They had seen enough drama over the years. But Zach couldn't help himself. For him, this wasn't just about Chris. It was about exposing what he believed was Matt's manipulative nature. Family members began taking sides. Some whispered that Chris should have known better than to take such a massive loan. Others said Matt was exploiting the situation to humiliate his ex-wife's new husband. The farm, once a place of pumpkins and memories, was now a battlefield of whispers, threats, and broken trust. The $400,000 loan wasn't just numbers on paper anymore. It had become a weapon. And Karen Chandler was determined to make sure Matt used it. Inside the farmhouse, Karen sat across from Matt at the dining table. The late afternoon light streamed in through the big windows overlooking Roloff Farms. Karen says, "Matt, you can't keep letting Chris walk all over you. He took $400,000, and what has he given you back? Nothing, not a penny." Matt says, "I know, Karen, but Amy's caught in the middle. If I push Chris too hard, I'm dragging her down with him. And believe me, the last thing I want is another war with Amy." Karen, "This isn't about Amy. This is about respect. Chris used you, Matt. He knew you'd never say no because of Amy. And now he's hiding behind her while his failed glamping project burned your money." Matt looked out the window, his gaze fixed on the barns and fields he had built with his own two hands. He had fought too hard for this land. Too many sacrifices. Too many battles. "Matt, this farm has been my life's work. Nobody, not Chris, not anyone, is going to take advantage of me here." Karen's eyes glinted with determination. "Karen, then do something about it. File the papers. Make it legal. Force him to pay you back." Later that evening, Amy dropped by to pick up some boxes she had left in the old storage shed. She walked past the farmhouse just as Karen's voice rose in frustration. Karen says, "Chris doesn't deserve sympathy, Nat. He deserves consequences." Amy froze at the doorway. Her heart raced as she realized they were talking about her husband. Stepping inside, she confronted them. Amy says, "What are you saying, Karen?" "That Matt should sue Chris. That he should drag my marriage into court." The room went silent. Matt opened his mouth to respond, but Amy's glare stopped him cold. Amy says, "You've hated Chris from the beginning. Don't think I don't see it. You'd do anything to drive a wedge between us." Karen says, "I don't hate Chris, Amy. I just see him for who he is. And one day, you will too." Amy's face flushed red with fury. Tears welled in her eyes, but her voice was sharp. "Amy, you don't get to decide who my husband is. And Matt, if you even think about siding with her on this, then maybe Zach was right about you all along." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. After Amy left, silence hung heavy in the farmhouse. Matt sat back down, his head in his hands. Matt says, "She's right. If I push this, I'll lose whatever peace is left between us." Karen says, "Matt, wake up. You already lost that peace when you gave Chris the money. He doesn't respect you. Amy will always defend him, no matter what he does. You need to protect yourself, not her." Matt didn't respond. His thoughts swirled. Was he being too soft? Or was Karen pushing him into a battle that could destroy the family forever? And so, the pressure mounted. Karen demanded action. Amy demanded loyalty. And Matt stood caught between his past and his present, between protecting his farm and protecting what little remained of his family ties. The $400,000 was no longer just a debt. It was a fuse, and the explosion was coming. Secrets never stay secret for long, especially when you're a Roloff. What began as a private loan between two men soon spread beyond the farm's fences and into the court of public opinion. It started with a single post. A fan-run Little People Big World forum suddenly lit up with a shocking claim. Did Chris borrow $400,000 from Matt and not pay it back? Within hours, screenshots of alleged text messages began circulating. One showed Matt warning Chris, "Final warning. Pay me back or face the consequences." Another showed Karen allegedly telling a friend that Chris had blown all the money on his failed glamping dream. Nobody could confirm if the screenshots were real. But in the world of reality TV fandom, confirmation didn't matter. The spark had been lit. Twitter, Facebook groups, and Reddit threads exploded. Fans divided into factions almost instantly. Fan post 1. Chris is a scammer. He used Amy and now he's using Matt. This guy was never right for her. Fan post 2. Amy deserves better than both of them. She needs to walk away from this whole circus. The Roloffs had always been public figures, but this was different. This wasn't about pumpkin season or farm tours. This was about betrayal, money, and power. And fans couldn't look away. Soon, gossip outlets picked up the story. Headlines flashed across entertainment sites. Roloff farm scandal. $400,000 loan tears family apart. Amy's new husband in financial trouble? Chris Marek accused of owing Matt big money. Karen Chandler pressures Matt to sue. Is this the end of family unity? Paparazzi showed up at Roloff Farms, hoping to catch Chris and Amy together. They followed Matt and Karen into town, shouting questions. Matt, are you suing Chris? Reporter. Amy, do you regret marrying Chris? Amy was spotted snapping at a photographer. Stay out of my marriage. But the damage was done. The story was no longer theirs to control. Behind the scenes, even TLC, the network that made the Roloffs famous, grew uneasy. Producers whispered that the scandal could tank the family's image or skyrocket ratings. Some saw opportunity, others saw risk. A leaked memo from production read, "We need to decide if this storyline is too toxic for the brand, or exactly what will keep audiences hooked." The family wasn't just battling each other anymore. They were battling the weight of public perception, headlines, and millions of viewers waiting for the next twist. Feeling cornered, Chris finally decided to speak publicly. He called a local Oregon journalist and gave a statement. Chris Marek interview. Yes, I borrowed money from Matt. It was an agreement between two men. My business didn't succeed the way I hoped, but I never intended to hurt anyone. I just need more time. He ended the interview with a pointed jab. And for the record, Karen has made this 10 times worse than it needed to be. The quotes spread like wildfire. Some praised Chris for honesty. Others accused him of playing the victim. The private feud had gone public. The farm was no longer just a family business. It was a stage for scandal. With every headline, every leaked text, every fan theory, the walls closed in tighter. And as the world watched, Amy Roloff's greatest fear came true. Her marriage was becoming a spectacle. But this was only the beginning. Because soon, the fallout from the public scandal would ignite tensions inside the Roloff family like never before. When the headlines hit, Chris Marek's world collapsed even further. The man who had once been known as Amy's charming, reliable husband was now painted as a fraud, a failure, and a liability. But behind the headlines, Chris wasn't scheming. He was desperate. It was 2 a.m. Chris sat alone in the living room, staring at a pile of overdue bills. The numbers blurred together, but the total was clear. $400,000 owed to Matt. $50,000 in business debts from the glamping project. Personal credit lines maxed out. He whispered to himself, voice cracking. Chris, I just need a break. One good deal. One chance to turn this around. But no chance was coming. Amy appeared in the doorway, her robe wrapped tight. She looked at him with weary eyes. Amy. Chris, come to bed. Chris, I can't, Amy. Don't you get it? I ruined everything. Matt wants his money. The whole world thinks I'm a thief, and you're stuck defending me. Amy walked over and touched his shoulder. Amy, you didn't ruin everything. You made a mistake. But we'll get through it. Together. Chris looked at her, guilt heavy in his eyes. Chris, I don't deserve you. The next morning, Chris walked into a local Oregon bank, clutching a folder filled with loan applications. He sat nervously across from the loan officer. Loan officer. I'm sorry, Mr. Murek. Given your current liabilities and the publicity surrounding this situation, we can't approve your request. Chris's face went pale. Chris,
Oh, he's dying.
please, you don't
I'm not dying
understand.
anymore.
If I don't get this loan, I'll lose everything.
I'm not dying anymore.
My marriage, my
Sorry to deal-
reputation. Loan officer. I do understand. But the risk is too high. There's nothing we can do. Chris left the bank with his head down. Outside, a photographer snapped a picture of him holding the rejection letter. Within hours, the image was online with the headline, Chris Marek denied loan. Financial ruin imminent. That night, Chris sat with Amy at their kitchen table. Chris, Amy, I need your help. Could you, maybe, talk to Matt? Get him to give me more time. You're the only one he might listen to. Amy froze. Her fork clattered against her plate. Amy says, You want me to go to Matt, my ex-husband? After everything we've been through? After everything he's put me through? Chris, do you even hear yourself? Chris says, I don't have a choice. If he sues me, we'll be destroyed. Please, Amy, I need you. Tears filled Amy's eyes. She felt torn, caught between protecting her marriage and reopening wounds from her past. Amy, whispering, broken. You promised me I'd never have to beg Matt for anything again. And now, here we are. Chris buried his face in his hands. In his desperation, Chris began considering reckless moves. He called an old acquaintance in Portland with a shady reputation. Chris, listen, I need investors. Fast. Doesn't matter how. Just tell me what I have to do. The voice on the other end replied coldly. Acquaintance. Fast money always comes with a price, Chris. Are you ready to pay it? Chris didn't answer, but in that silence, one thing was clear. The man who once prided himself on being stable and trustworthy was on the edge of losing everything. Chris Marek was drowning. The glamping dream was dead. The banks had turned their backs. Even Amy's patience was wearing thin, and as he grew more desperate, the risks he was willing to take grew darker. Because sometimes, when a man is cornered, he doesn't fight to win. He fights to survive. Matt Roloff had always been a strategist. He wasn't just a farmer. He was a builder, a businessman, a man who turned obstacles into opportunities. And now, as Chris Marek's life unraveled, Matt saw not just a debt, but leverage. Inside the farmhouse kitchen, Matt spread papers across the table. Contracts, loan records, and legal documents. Karen leaned over his shoulder, her arms crossed. Matt, if Chris can't pay me back, I can file a line against his assets, his house, his vehicles, even his share in Amy's new ventures. The law is on my side. Karen, good. He thought he could play games with you, but he's about to learn. You don't mess with Matt Roloff. Matt's eyes narrowed as he tapped the loan agreement with his finger. Matt says, he signed this. He can't deny it. I gave him every chance. Now it's time to remind him that I didn't build this farm by being soft. A few days later, Chris reluctantly agreed to meet Matt at the farm's office. The tension was thick as they sat across from each other, the ex-husband and the current husband, bound by money and pride. Matt, Chris, I've been patient. Too patient. But patience doesn't pay bills. $400,000. I want it back. Now. Chris, Matt, I just need more time. The business didn't work out the way I hoped. Matt, I don't care about your business. I care about the farm. I care about respect. You took my money. You gave me your word. And now you're hiding behind excuses. Chris, I'm not hiding. I didn't intend to fail. Do you think I wanted this? I'm doing everything I can. Matt leaned back in his chair, calm but dangerous. Matt, everything you can isn't enough. If you don't pay, I'll make sure the law collects it for me. And trust me, you don't want to see how ugly that gets. Chris's face went pale. Just as the argument escalated, Amy walked in. She had come to drop off some papers, but instead found her husband and her ex-husband on the verge of an explosive fight. Amy, Matt, stop threatening him like he's some stranger. He's my husband. Don't you dare talk to him that way. Matt, then maybe you should remind your husband that debts don't disappear just because he married you. Amy's eyes filled with tears. Amy, I told you this would happen. I told you borrowing from Matt would come back to haunt us. Chris lowered his head, ashamed. Later that evening, Matt met privately with his lawyer in Portland. Lawyer, you have a solid case. If he can't pay, you can sue for repayment, seize assets, even force the sale of his property. But I need to ask, do you want repayment or revenge? Matt paused, his fingers drumming on the desk. Matt, I want control. Over the debt. Over Chris. Over this whole mess. If I push too hard, Amy will fight back. But if I play this right, I'll own him. The lawyer raised an eyebrow but nodded. Lawyer, then we'll proceed strategically. Quiet pressure, legal notices, asset evaluations. By the time he realizes, it'll be too late. And so, the battle shifted. Chris was scrambling to survive. But Matt was calculating every move, tightening the noose with the precision of a businessman who had outmaneuvered bigger threats before. The $400,000 debt wasn't just leverage anymore. It was a weapon. And Matt Roloff was ready to use it. For years, the Roloff children had tried to distance themselves from their parents' battles. Divorces, property disputes, inheritance arguments, they had seen it all. But this time, the storm wasn't something they could ignore. This time, the fallout reached them directly. At his own home, Zach Roloff paced the living room while Tori sat on the couch, watching him. Zach, this is exactly what I've been saying about Dad for years. He doesn't care about family. He cares about power. He lent Chris that money just to control him. And now look, everyone's paying the price. Tori, but Zach, Chris did borrow the money. He knew what he was signing up for. It's not just Matt's fault. Zach, you don't get it. Dad lives for this. He wants people to owe him. He thrives on leverage. And now Mom's right back in the middle because of Chris's mistake. Zach threw his hands up in frustration. Zach, I'm done pretending Dad's the victim. He's not. He never was. Meanwhile, Jeremy Roloff and his wife, Audrey, discussed the drama while walking through their vineyard project. Audrey, do you think we should step in? Try to help? Jeremy, no. Every time we get involved, it turns into a disaster. This isn't our fight. It's Dad's money, Chris's problem, and Mom's heartbreak. But it's not ours. Audrey, still, it's sad. Watching them tear each other apart. The farm used to bring us together. Now it's just a battlefield. Jeremy nodded silently, staring at the rows of vines. Jeremy. And that's why we left it all behind. On a video call, Molly Roloff spoke with her brothers. Molly, I moved to Spokane to get away from this kind of drama. And now it's following me through headlines and phone calls. Mom cries when she calls me. Dad's acting like a dictator. Chris looks desperate. It's exhausting. Zach, because Dad is a dictator, and Karen's making it worse. Molly, don't just blame Karen, Zach. Chris made this mess too. $400,000? What was he thinking? The siblings fell silent. The truth was hard to admit. Both sides were guilty. But no one wanted to say it out loud. Jacob Roloff, the youngest, had always been outspoken. He took to social media with a cryptic post. Money changes people. Power reveals them. Family should mean more than contracts. Fans immediately speculated it was about the loan scandal. Some praised Jacob for standing up. Others accused him of stirring the pot. But for Jacob, it wasn't about stirring anything. It was about anger. He later told his wife Isabel privately, "Jacob, my dad is destroying this family just to prove a point, and mom's stuck cleaning up the mess." Again. The breaking point came during a rare family dinner Amy organized, hoping to ease the tension. The table was set, food was served, but the air was heavy. "Zach, why do you always have to control everything? Why can't you let Chris figure it out without crushing him?" "Matt, because he owes me $400,000. That's not control, Zach. That's reality." "Molly, and why did you even borrow that much money in the first place? You knew it was risky." "Chris, I was trying to build something. I wanted to prove myself. I didn't expect the whole world to tear me apart when it didn't work." Voices rose. Accusations flew. Amy sat silently, her hands shaking as she held her glass of wine. Finally, she slammed it down on the table, her voice breaking. "Amy, enough! You're tearing this family apart over money. Again. Do you hear yourselves? This isn't just about dollars. It's about destroying what little love we have left." The table fell silent, but the silence wasn't peace. It was the silence of fractures deepening. The Roloff children had tried to stay neutral, but neutrality was no longer possible. Some saw Chris as reckless. Others saw Matt as manipulative. And Amy, the heart of the family, was being ripped apart in the crossfire. Roloff Farms was no longer just land. It was a symbol of everything the family stood to lose. For decades, Amy Roloff had been the glue of her family. Through the farm struggles, through divorce, through public scrutiny, she had endured. But in 2024, the woman who once held it all together finally began to fall apart. Amy lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Chris was beside her, but she felt utterly alone. Everywhere she turned, there was conflict. Matt demanding repayment. Karen urging legal action. Her children divided. Fans mocking her marriage online. She whispered into the darkness, "Amy, why is it always me? Why do I always have to be the one in the middle?" Tears rolled down her cheeks as she buried her face into the pillow. One afternoon, Amy went to a local bakery, a place where she often found peace. She picked up a tray of pastries, but as she reached the counter, a fan recognized her. Fan says, "Oh my gosh, Amy, I just have to ask, is it true? Did Chris really borrow all that money from Matt?" Amy froze. Her hands shook so badly that she dropped the tray, pastries scattering across the floor. The bakery went silent. Amy's face turned red as tears filled her eyes. She ran out of the shop without answering, leaving the pastries behind. Outside, cameras caught her sobbing in her car. Within hours, the footage went viral. Amy Roloff breaks down in public. Marriage under strain screamed the headlines. That evening, Amy sat with her close friend Lisa over tea. "Amy, Lisa, I can't do this anymore. I thought marrying Chris meant I was starting fresh. But now it's like I'm reliving the same nightmare all over again. Money, control, betrayal. Matt never really left my life. He's still controlling it." Lisa, "Amy, you're stronger than this. But you need to ask yourself, are you protecting Chris, or are you just protecting the idea of the marriage you wanted?" Amy looked down, her hands clutching the teacup tightly. She didn't answer, but the question haunted her. Days later, Amy confronted both Matt and Chris in a heated moment at Roloff Farms. The three of them stood near the barn, voices rising. Amy, you've been controlling me my whole life. Even after the divorce, you still find ways to pull the strings.
Didn't I make that announcement?
I'm not controlling you, Amy. I'm protecting what's mine. Chris owes me money. That's not control. That's responsibility. Amy, and you promised me peace. You promised me stability. And instead, you dragged me back into the same pain I thought I'd escaped. Chris reached out, his voice soft. Chris, Amy, please. But she slapped his hand away. Amy, I can't trust either of you. Not anymore. Her sobs echoed across the farm as she collapsed onto a bench, burying her face in her hands. For the first time, both men were silent. For the first time, Amy's strength had finally cracked. That night, Amy recorded a private video journal, something she hadn't done since the divorce. Amy, I don't know who I am anymore. A wife? An ex-wife? A mother trying to keep her family from falling apart. I just know I can't keep carrying everyone else's battles on my shoulders. Not anymore. She turned off the camera, sat in silence, and finally allowed herself to feel the weight of years of sacrifice. Amy Roloff had reached her breaking point. The woman who once stood strong against every storm now stood fragile, caught between two men, two worlds, and a family splintering before her eyes. But sometimes, breaking down isn't the end. Sometimes, it's the beginning of a fight to rebuild. And Amy's story was far from over. Roloff Farms had seen its share of arguments, but never like this. What began as whispers and private disputes was about to erupt into a storm that no camera could look away from. It was pumpkin season, the busiest time of year. Families arrived, kids ran through the fields, and fans of Little People Big World wandered the farm with excitement. But behind the scenes, tension simmered. TLC cameras had been rolling for weeks, and producers knew a confrontation was inevitable. That day, it finally happened. Matt, Chris, Amy, and Karen all found themselves near the main barn. Fans and staff lingered nearby, sensing something was about to unfold. Matt held a stack of documents in his hand, official loan papers and repayment demands. Matt, Chris, I'm done waiting. You owe me $400,000. You've embarrassed me, embarrassed this farm, and dragged my family into your mess. Chris's face flushed red as onlookers turned their heads. Chris, I didn't drag anyone, Matt. I took a risk, I failed. But I'm not a criminal. You knew what you were doing when you gave me that money. You wanted this leverage. Gasps came from the crowd. A few fans raised their phones, filming. Amy stepped between them, her hands shaking. Amy, stop it. Both of you. Do you realize what you're doing? This is our family, our farm, and you're turning it into a circus. Matt. No, Amy. He turned it into a circus when he failed to pay what he owes. You can blame me all you want, but the facts don't lie. Amy. Facts? You've used facts to control me our whole marriage, and now you're doing it again. Through Chris. You'll never stop, will you? Her voice cracked, tears streaming down her face. At that moment, Karen stepped forward, her tone sharp and cutting. Karen. Amy, open your eyes. He's not the victim here. Chris dug his own grave. He took Matt's money, blew it on his ridiculous glamping project, and now you're paying the price. Amy. No, Karen. You've been waiting for this. You've wanted to humiliate me from the beginning. Don't think I don't see it. Karen. Humiliate you? Amy, you did that to yourself the moment you married him. The crowd around them gasped again. A staff member whispered, This is going to be on the show, isn't it? You don't get to talk to her like that. You've been poisoning Matt against me since day one. This isn't about money anymore. This is about power. And I'm not going to let you tear my marriage apart. Matt. Then pay me what you owe, Chris. Pay me or I'll take everything you own. By now, Fans and visitors had fully gathered, watching the drama unfold like a live soap opera. Phones were out, cameras rolling. Children were pulled aside by their parents as voices escalated. TLC producers whispered frantically, unsure whether to intervene or keep filming. Amy broke down in the middle of it all, shouting through tears. "Amy, do you all hear yourselves? This isn't family anymore. This is war." She turned and stormed off, sobbing into her hands. The cameras followed her retreat, capturing every tear. Silence fell for a moment. Chris glared at Matt. Matt stared back coldly, his documents still in hand. Karen stood with her arms crossed, victorious but unshaken. The confrontation had ended, but the damage was done. By the next morning, the video clips were everywhere. TikTok edits. Twitter hashtags Roloff farm fight. Headlines screaming, "Roloff family implodes in front of fans." The Roloffs had lost control of the narrative. Now the world wasn't just watching, the world was judging. Roloff Farms, once a place of joy and community, had become a public stage for betrayal and anger. The confrontation was over, but the consequences had only just begun. Because now, what had been a private debt was a public scandal. And every move the Roloffs made from here on out would be watched, recorded, and remembered. For years, Amy Roloff and Karen Chandler had lived in an uneasy truce. They smiled in front of cameras, traded polite words, and tried to coexist for the sake of Matt and the farm. But beneath the surface simmered resentment. Amy saw Karen as the woman who replaced her. Karen saw Amy as the ex-wife who never truly let go. And now, with Chris's debt threatening to tear everything apart, that simmering tension finally boiled over. A week after the public farm confrontation, Amy showed up at the farmhouse to collect some belongings. Karen was already there, sitting at the kitchen island with a coffee. The air was thick with unspoken hostility. Neither woman wanted to back down. "Amy, I didn't come here to fight, Karen. I came here for my things." Karen says, "Funny, Amy. Everywhere you go, there's a fight. Maybe you should ask yourself why." Amy froze, her jaw tightening. "Amy, you've been whispering in Matt's ear from the very beginning. You never wanted peace. You wanted control. And now you're using this debt to destroy my marriage." Karen, destroy your marriage? Amy, Chris did that all by himself. He took Matt's money, wasted it, and dragged you into the mess. Don't blame me because you chose a man who couldn't handle responsibility. Amy's eyes filled with tears, but her voice shook with fury. "Amy, you don't get to talk about my husband that way. You've never cared about this family. You only care about what you get from Matt." Karen stood up now, face to face with Amy. Karen, oh, here we go. The same old story. Poor Amy, the victim. Matt was too controlling. Karen's the manipulator. Everyone's against you. But maybe, just maybe, the problem has always been you. Amy gasped, as if she'd been slapped. "Amy, you took everything from me, Karen. My marriage, my peace, my family's respect. And now, you're trying to take what little I have left." Karen, I didn't take your marriage, Amy. Matt left because you pushed him away. I didn't ruin your family, you did, with your bitterness. And now Chris is proving he's no better. Amy, you'll never be part of this family, Karen. You can pretend, you can manipulate Matt, you can smile for the cameras, but deep down, you'll always be the outsider. You'll never be me. For a moment, Karen's face hardened, but then she gave a small, chilling smile. Karen, and thank God for that. The room fell silent. Amy's tears spilled down her face as she turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Matt came home an hour later to find Karen sitting alone at the table, her coffee untouched. Matt, what happened? Karen, the truth? That's what happened. Amy needed to hear it. Matt sighed, rubbing his forehead. Matt, this isn't just about the truth, Karen. This is about ripping open wounds that may never heal. Karen looked at him, unflinching. Karen, wounds don't heal when you keep covering them up. And Amy's been covering hers for years. The confrontation between Amy and Karen was more than an argument. It was a battle years in the making, a clash of old scars, bitter truths, and unhealed pain. For Amy, it was another reminder that her world was crumbling. For Karen, it was proof that she would never back down. And for Matt, caught between them both, it was a warning. This war was no longer just about money. It was about legacy, loyalty, and love. Arguments could be ignored. Whispers could be denied. But legal documents? They couldn't be erased. By late 2024, the storm brewing over Roloff Farms had taken its most dangerous turn yet. The lawyers were now involved. Matt sat in his farmhouse office, papers spread across the desk. Karen stood nearby, arms folded, as Matt's lawyer laid out the plan. Lawyer. Mr. Roloff, the loan contract is airtight. Chris Marek signed with no contingencies. You have the right to demand repayment in full. If he doesn't comply, we file suit. We can seize assets, garnish wages, even place a lion on his property. Matt. Good. I gave him every chance. Now I'll take what's mine. Karen. About time. The lawyer slid a formal notice across the desk. Lawyer. This is the first step, an official demand for repayment. Once he receives it, the clock starts ticking. Matt picked up the letter, staring at Chris's name printed in bold. For a moment, he hesitated. Then, with a sigh, he signed. Days later, Chris returned home to find a thick envelope in the mailbox. He tore it open and froze. Inside was the official demand notice, repayment of $400,000 due within 30 days. Failure to pay would result in legal action. His hands shook as he dropped the letter onto the table. Chris. Oh God. Oh no. Amy walked in, carrying groceries. Amy. What's wrong? Chris handed her the letter without a word. Amy read it once, then again. Her face went pale. Amy, he's suing you. He's really going to do it. Chris paced the living room, his voice frantic. Chris. I don't have the money, Amy. I can't pay him back. If this goes to court, I'll lose everything. The house, the cars, everything. Amy. And what about me, Chris? What do I lose? My dignity? My family? Hadn't I already lost enough? Chris froze. Amy's words hit harder than the lawsuit. Chris. Amy, please. I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought I could build something for us. I thought I could prove I was more than just your husband. Amy turned away, tears brimming in her eyes. Amy, I didn't marry you to prove anything. I married you for peace, and all I got was another war. News of the legal filing spread quickly through the Roloff family group chat. Zach. Unbelievable. Dad's dragging Chris into court now. This is exactly what I warned everyone about. Molly. Chris owes him money, Zach. What did you expect? Dad's not just going to let it go. Jacob. When family takes you to court, you've already lost more than money. The family fractures deepened. Sides were chosen. And the farm, once the symbol of unity, became the symbol of division. That night, Amy sat in her kitchen with her head in her hands. She recorded another private video journal, her voice trembling. Amy says, I can't believe this is happening. Man is dragging my husband into court.
Diane.
The man I built my
dying.
life with,
Didn't I
the
tell-
man
didn't
I
make
raised
that
my
announcement?
children
Really?
with,
I just said
is
I'm
now
not dying
trying to
anymore.
destroy my
So I had to
marriage.
deal with
And Chris, I don't even know if I can trust him anymore. I feel like I'm losing everything, all over again. She shut off the camera and wept silently. The legal storm had begun. Chris Merrick was drowning in debt and fear. Amy Roloff was breaking under the pressure. And Matt Roloff, backed by Karen and the law, was ready to strike. What started as a loan had become a battlefield. And the courtroom was now the next destination. Every storm has an eye, a moment of calm before the chaos intensifies. But in the Roloff family war, there was no calm. Only secrets, waiting to be uncovered. And when those secrets surfaced, they shook everyone to the core. It started with rumors. A former employee of Roloff Farms posted anonymously online. Not everything about that loan is what it seems. Papers were signed that shouldn't have been. Someone forged details to make Chris look worse than he is. Fans swarmed the thread, speculating wildly. Some believed Chris had been set up. Others believed Karen had a hand in the paperwork. The whispers grew louder, and soon they reached Amy. Amy sat Chris down at their kitchen table, her voice low and trembling. Amy, Chris, tell me the truth. Did you really sign everything Matt's claiming you did? Or is there something else? Chris rubbed his face with his hands, looking exhausted. Chris, I signed the agreement, yes. But Amy, there were extra pages in that contract I don't remember ever seeing. Clauses about collateral, penalties, things I never agreed to. Amy's eyes widened. Amy, are you saying Matt or Karen changed the documents? Chris didn't answer, but his silence said everything. A week later, Amy received a message from an unexpected source, a former Roloff Farms accountant. They met secretly at a coffee shop. The accountant slid a folder across the table. I probably shouldn't be showing you this, but you need to know. Some of the paperwork on that loan doesn't add up. Signatures look off, dates don't match, and certain clauses were added after Chris signed. Amy's hands trembled as she flipped through the papers. Amy, you're saying it was tampered with? Let's just say it wouldn't be the first time business around here wasn't done clean. Meanwhile, Jacob uncovered another piece of the puzzle. Through a friend still connected to the farm, he learned that Karen had been meeting privately with TLC producers weeks before the debt scandal broke. Jacob shared the discovery with his siblings. Jacob, don't you see? Karen's been feeding TLC this storyline. She wants the cameras on her side. She's turning this whole thing into her victory lap. Zach, so Dad's letting Karen ruin our family on national TV? Over money? Molly, if that's true, then this isn't just about debt. It's about manipulation. The siblings fell silent, the weight of betrayal sinking in. Armed with the folder of suspicious documents, Amy confronted Karen in the farmhouse driveway. Amy, care to explain this, Karen? Clauses added after Chris signed. Signatures that don't match. You've been pushing Matt to destroy my husband, and now I know why. Karen smirked, folding her arms. Karen, careful, Amy. Throwing around words like forgery is dangerous, especially when you don't know the full story. Amy, I know enough. You've been scheming behind the scenes, turning Matt against us, feeding producers, all because you can't stand the fact that I still matter. Karen, you don't matter, Amy. Not to Matt, not to the farm, and soon, not even to Chris. Amy's face crumpled as she realized the depth of Karen's cruelty. That night, Chris received an anonymous email. Attached was a scanned document, an earlier draft of the loan agreement. It showed the loan at $250,000, not $400,000. The higher number had been added later. Chris stared at the screen in disbelief. Chris, they inflated it. They made me look worse, on purpose. He forwarded the file to Amy, who sat in shock as she read it. The implications were clear. Matt and Karen hadn't just been pressuring him. They may have been building a case on false ground. The truth had begun to unravel. Forged documents, manipulated contracts, secret meetings with producers. Chris Merrick wasn't just a desperate man anymore. He was possibly a victim. And Amy, armed with the evidence, was ready to fight back. But exposing the truth wouldn't just mean clearing Chris's name. It would mean going head-to-head with Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler. In court, in public, and in front of the entire world. Roloff Farms had always been a stage. For family, for love, for struggle. But now, it became a case file. And the new stage was the courtroom. The $400,000 debt, the accusations of manipulation, the whispers of forgery. All of it was dragged into the public eye. And for the first time, Matt, Karen, Amy, and Chris would face each other under oath. The Oregon courthouse was packed. Fans, reporters, even TLC cameras lined the hallways. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Matt and Karen sat at one table with their lawyer, poised and confident. Across from them, Amy and Chris sat together, hands clasped tightly, fear etched across their faces. The judge entered, and silence fell. Judge, this court will now hear the case of Roloff versus Merrick. Matt's lawyer rose first, pacing before the jury. Lawyer, ladies and gentlemen, this is simple. Mr. Merrick borrowed $400,000. He signed the contract, he accepted the terms, and he failed to pay it back. My client, Matt Roloff, has every legal right to seek repayment. Nothing more, nothing less. Matt nodded firmly, his eyes fixed on Chris. The lawyer held up the loan papers. Lawyer, these are the documents Mr. Merrick signed. His signature, his responsibility. The jury nodded. The case looked clean. Then it was Chris's turn. He stood, voice trembling at first, but growing stronger as he spoke. Chris, I admit I borrowed money. I admit my business failed. But this case isn't about my failure. It's about manipulation. These papers were altered. Clauses were added after I signed. The debt amount itself was inflated. I was set up to fail. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Amy squeezed his hand, tears in her eyes. Amy's lawyer called the accountant to the stand, the former Roloff Farms employee who had come forward. I reviewed the documents. The original draft listed $250,000, not $400,000. Clauses about collateral were not present when Chris signed. Those were added later. The courtroom erupted in whispers. The judge slammed the gavel. Judge, order in the court. Matt's lawyer objected furiously, claiming the testimony was speculative. But Amy's team then presented the anonymous email, the earlier draft of the contract. The judge examined it closely. The jury leaned in. The cracks in Matt's case were showing. Amy's lawyer turned to Karen, who had been called as a witness. Lawyer, Ms. Chandler, isn't it true that you were present during discussions of this loan? Karen, I was there, yes, but I had no involvement in the agreement. Lawyer, and yet, you pressured Mr. Roloff repeatedly to take legal action, didn't you? Karen, I encouraged Matt to stand up for himself. That's not a crime. Lawyer, but feeding information to producers, leaking private details to tabloids, that is manipulation, isn't it? Karen's eyes flashed with anger, but she didn't answer. The silence was damning. Finally, Amy herself took the stand. Her voice shook, but her words carried weight. Amy, I spent years married to Matt. I know how he works. Everything is about control. When he gave Chris that loan, it wasn't out of kindness. It was leverage. And when Chris's business failed, Matt saw his chance. He didn't just want the money back. He wanted power over my husband, and by extension, over me. She looked directly at Matt, tears in her eyes. Amy, I won't let you control me anymore. The courtroom was silent. Even Matt shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Just as the trial seemed to be turning, Amy's lawyer presented one final piece of evidence: a series of text messages between Karen and a TLC producer. "Make sure the cameras are there when Matt serves him. This will be huge for the show." The courtroom gasped. The implication was clear. Karen had been staging parts of the conflict for the cameras, turning family pain into reality TV gold. Matt's face went pale. Karen stared straight ahead, unflinching. Lawyer: "This isn't about a loan anymore. This is about exploitation. This is about a man who used money to manipulate his ex-wife and her new husband. This is about a woman who turned a family's suffering into entertainment. And this is about the truth finally coming to light." The jury watched intently, the weight of the drama heavy in the room. The trial had revealed more than anyone expected: inflated loans, forged documents, secret deals, manipulation behind the cameras. The Roloff family's private war was now public record. And as the jury prepared to deliberate, one thing was certain: no matter the verdict, the Roloffs would never be the same again. Every storm ends. But when the clouds clear, the wreckage remains. For the Roloffs, the courtroom battle was not just about money. It was about truth, betrayal, and the destruction of trust. And when the verdict came, it left scars that would never heal. The jury filed back into the courtroom. Silence fell, the kind that seemed to stretch for hours. Judge: "In the matter of Roloff versus Marek, we find that the loan agreement was altered. The court reduces the valid debt owed by Mr. Marek to $250,000. Furthermore, due to evidence of manipulation, the court denies Mr. Roloff's claim for additional damages." Gasps filled the room. Chris sagged with relief, tears in his eyes. Amy grabbed his hand, whispering, "We did it." Matt's jaw tightened. Karen sat rigid, her face unreadable. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. "Reporter? Matt, do you feel justice was served?" Matt's voice was cold, his anger barely contained. "Matt, this isn't justice. This is the system protecting failure. I built everything I have by fighting for it. And today, the wrong person won." He stormed off, ignoring further questions. Karen followed, her face dark with rage. Meanwhile, Chris spoke softly to the cameras. "Chris, I know I made mistakes, but I never wanted to hurt anyone. Today, the truth came out, and for that, I'm grateful." He looked at Amy, squeezing her hand. "Chris, I don't deserve you, but I'll spend the rest of my life proving I do." Amy smiled faintly, though her eyes were still filled with exhaustion. In the weeks that followed, the Roloff family grew more divided than ever. Zach publicly blasted Matt, saying, "Dad only cares about winning, not family." Molly withdrew further, avoiding the media circus. Jacob posted another cryptic message: "Sometimes, losing money is cheaper than losing yourself." Jeremy and Audrey stayed silent, choosing their vineyard over the chaos. The Roloffs were still a family in name, but in practice, they were splintered beyond repair. One evening, Amy sat alone in her kitchen, recording one final video journal. "Amy, this has been the hardest year of my life. I thought I could escape my past, but it followed me. Maybe that's the truth about family. You never really escape it. You just learn to live with the scars." She wiped her tears, then whispered, "Amy, but I'm still here, and that has to count for something." Meanwhile, in the farmhouse, Karen poured herself a glass of wine. "Karen, they may have won this round, but this isn't over. Not for us. Not for the farm. We'll rebuild. And next time, we won't lose." Matt stared out the window at Roloff Farms, his face grim. "Matt, no matter what happens, this farm will outlast all of them. It always does." The verdict had been delivered. The debt reduced. The truth exposed. But the Roloff family paid a far higher price than money. Amy stood shattered, Chris humbled, Matt furious, and Karen unyielding. The children drifted further apart. Roloff Farms still stood, but as a monument to everything they had lost. And in the end, one question lingered. Was the fight worth it? Or had the Roloffs destroyed themselves for good? Will Chris Marek ever recover from his failed business? Or will this scandal follow him forever? Will Amy's marriage survive the cracks this war has exposed? And is Karen Chandler the villain, or simply the only one willing to fight? The Roloff story isn't over. More update. Little people, Big World has recently become the center of attention due to a series of shocking events. The biggest headline is the surprising reason behind Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler's breakup, which left fans stunned. At the same time, Roloff Farms announced a surprising new addition, bringing even more curiosity about the family's future. Meanwhile, Amy Roloff broke her silence with an emotional statement about a tragic death, moving fans to tears. To make matters even more dramatic, it was revealed that Matt Roloff spent over $1 million on Karen just before she dumped him. Together, these revelations have left viewers questioning what lies ahead for the Roloff family. I will explain everything. LPBW, shocking reason behind Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler breakup. Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler's breakup was public knowledge in July. What transpired next is a mystery to many admirers. As of late, a reliable insider has spoken up regarding the matter. Viewers first became acquainted with Matt and his family through the Little People, Big World TLC series. On the show, viewers could see how Matt, his ex-wife Amy, and their 4 kids lived their lives. The whole family, Matt, Amy, and Zach, is short for their height. Divorced in 2016, Matt and Amy were married for the first time in 1987. In the aftermath, Matt began seeing Karen Chandler, the daughter of the farm's manager. Nevertheless, word got out in July 2025 that Matt and Karen's relationship had finally terminated. Their earlier engagement announcement left fans wondering what had transpired. The story was recently shared with the U.S. Sun by an inside source. Their relationship may have ended after a disagreement about their Oregon home, says the insider. Karen ended it because Matt didn't listen to her opinion on certain things, the source revealed. This is what they said. She didn't want to be making choices, but she wanted her input to be respected. And it never was. One point where the pair couldn't come to an agreement was regarding the residence. After it was completed, Matt did nothing except gripe about it, and Karen initially didn't think they needed it. The insider said that Karen didn't feel respected enough to stay and found him quite difficult to be with at times. But there were other concerns mentioned by the insider, who said, she is also getting older and is hoping to live a drama-free life. Quite a bit of turmoil surrounds Matt and his family. It became excessive in the end. The source further revealed that the split was not an impulsive choice. It was said that Karen made several attempts to sit down with Matt and explain to him what she thought he should do differently. Nobody could pinpoint a single event that changed everything. There was no change in their connection, and she had persevered for an extended period. The source further disclosed that the breakup had occurred prior to the announcement going public. She broke up with him in person, and they actually ended it about a month before Matt's Facebook post. They revealed. Building the couple's home on the Oregon family farm had been Matt's project for months. Before the split, the project was completed, with a rumored construction budget of $1,461,520. LPBW, Roloff Farms, announces surprising new addition. Since Little People, Big World will not be returning after season 25, many fans are wondering what Matt Roloff and the family will do in the absence of the TLC cameras. According to the most current rumors, Roloff Farms has announced a massive expansion. Despite the fact that Little People, Big World is no longer airing, the amount of drama in the world remains high, even without the camera crew to record it all. Matt Roloff recently made headlines when he announced his surprise breakup from Karen Chandler, according to his newest updates. Most viewers of Little People, Big World assumed that Matt and Karen would remain a couple for the foreseeable future. After Matt proposed, many viewers started to speculate if TLC might air a wedding special in the future. Nonetheless, a source hinted that Karen was the one who ultimately wanted out, and Matt claims that he and Karen split up. A shocking new addition is on the way to Roloff Farms, according to the most recent Little People Big World reports circulating. It turns out that the farm is up to some new tricks with their harvest market concept, on top of getting ready for pumpkin season. In a recent TikTok video, Jacob Roloff informed his followers about a new market concept that would have 12 merchants selling one-of-a-kind goods, such as carpentry and baked bread. The fact that it will not cost anything to stroll through the market is the nicest aspect, according to Jacob, since they want people to come out. This seems like a fantastic approach to increase engagement and bring even more visitors to see this Oregon landmark. Which is why Matt Roloff and his team are continuously seeking for innovative ways to improve Roloff Farms. According to Jacob Roloff, this is the farm's intended course of action, and the new market concept is just a test run to determine whether the plan takes off. The grand opening of this new market is scheduled for October 3, just in time for pumpkin season. However, commenters are quite vocal about this announcement in and of itself. Delighted to see Roloff Farms has a future, one individual wrote. One more person said, "It's great to see Roloff Farm is still operational. You should see them revitalizing Roloff Farm. It's absolutely delightful." Exclaimed another commenter. Is this new addition to the farm something you're excited about? Use the space below to inform us. LPBW, Amy Roloff breaks silence about tragic death. Not long ago, Little People Big World star Amy Roloff addressed the tragic death rumor that has been circulating online. Where did Amy Roloff stand in all of this, and what is happening now? No one can stay up with the Roloff family on Little People Big World anymore after the show was canceled after season 25. Everyone wants to know what the Roloffs are up to these days, so they're the center of tons of attention. In light of her most recent announcements, Amy Roloff has apparently been marketing her book on social media. From Amy's marriage to Matt Roloff and the beginnings of Roloff Farms, readers of A Little Me will receive a taste of Amy's history. Those in need of a summer read should, in Amy's opinion, peruse her work. Little People Big World viewers are aware that Amy Roloff is often juggling multiple projects. A great deal of her previously enjoyed free time is now available to her for pursuits like traveling. Following Amy's social media accounts is much like getting a whole season of the show, even if most viewers would agree that it's not. Fans still appreciate Amy's updates. Amy Roloff did double duty. She promoted her book to be read over the summer and announced the end of a rumor that her father had died. It was fake news, Amy clarified, taking the time to set the record straight. Amy Roloff signed off by saying, "Thank you," to her Little People Big World admirers in the comments. The silver lining is that it's not true. He is currently visiting me in Michigan. At the age of 96, he is showing remarkable progress. It has been reported in multiple web sources that Amy Roloff's dad has died. Many of Amy's Little People Big World admirers are relieved to hear that she herself has denied the rumor. Visiting her family in Michigan is now within Amy's reach, thanks to her freedom from the constraints of her TLC filming schedule. Everything points to her having a fantastic time, after keeping silent about these death accusations. What are your thoughts on Amy Roloff finally speaking out? Post a comment below to share your ideas. Matt Roloff dropped over $1 million on Karen just before she dumped him. A breakup between fiancé Karen Chandler and Matt Roloff was just announced. Now that word has spread, it has been revealed that Matt had spent more than $1 million on a project she was involved in. Even more so, this emerges as a reliable insider has just spoken out regarding the split. Fans of The Little People, Big World TLC series may remember Matt and his family. From 2006 until 2024, viewers followed the daily lives of the Roloff family as they farmed their farm. Matt, Amy, and Zach, the son of Matt and Amy, all suffered from dwarfism. They tied the knot in 1984, Matt and his ex-wife Amy. But they got a divorce in 2016. After Amy and Chris's divorce in 2021, she wed Chris Marek. Matt also started seeing Karen Chandler, who had been the farm manager before, in 2017. It was already revealed that Matt and Karen will be engaged in 2023. The breakup was revealed by Matt on Instagram on July 22, 2025. Hello everyone, I am sorry to break the bad news to you all. We have mutually agreed to end our engagement and part ways. Every step of the way is the correct one for us right now. Life is a continuous journey. Nothing has changed our friendly relationship, and we will always treasure the many happy moments we have made together. The family has been blindsided, says an anonymous source who spoke to The Sun regarding the situation. Nothing like this was expected of them. On the property earlier this month, Matt and Karen appeared to be happy and normal. I had a fantastic time. According to the article, Karen was also the one who started the recent split. Additional future goals that Matt had were also detailed in the magazine. His alleged $1,461,520 investment in their dream house was made just before they broke up. Located on Roloff Farms, the mansion was erected by Matt last year. In 2023, work allegedly began. Matt allegedly constructed the farmhouse for Karen after she expressed her distaste for the mansion he shared with Amy and their children. In an earlier episode of Little People, Big World, Karen discussed her thinking process. When asked about hosting Thanksgiving here, Karen said, "The kids would come in with the baggage of Amy cooking in there, and now I'm trying." The essence lies solely in the feelings conveyed. Nobody has to deal with that. Individuals can move on. Many choices are available to you. I mean, having this massive mansion is almost unfair, isn't it? For a family with children, it's the perfect fit. For a long time, Matt used social media to keep supporters apprised of the building progress. Construction drawings showed a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, stone fireplace residence with hardwood flooring. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.